Hey guys, Oro here, and today we're making an Armored Core 6 weapon tier list. I have 91 weapons to tier. This is going to take a while, but hope you're strapped in, ready for some fun. We're going to go over every single weapon in the game. Let's do it. All right, first up, we got the Rensetsu RF, not to be confused with the Rensetsu AR. This thing is really good, especially after the recent patch. I don't know if it needed a buff. It's one of the best rifles in the game. But it's still not great in terms of everything. I would put this, I think I'm going to put it B tier. I don't think it belongs in A because rifles just aren't super great. But I think a solid B tier for the Rensetsu. Next up is the Curtis linear rifle. Oh man, this thing sucks. I have used this thing extensively, and when compared to everything else, it's just so bad. It got buffed, it did, but it's still just really pathetic. Honestly, this is D tier. I have to put it in D tier. It sucks. It's bad. And now we're going to go for its bigger brother, the Harris. Now, the Harris is really good. I'm going to go ahead and put it straight into B tier. This thing really packs a punch. It staggers pretty quick, especially if you got two of them. It's really good. Its charge attack is good too. Not bad at all. It's just the better Curtis. It's the better linear rifle, without a doubt. Next, we got the Turner assault rifle, the starting assault rifle when you start the game. This thing is absolutely useless. It is terrible. This is probably the worst gun in the game. If I had an F tier, I would probably save it for the Turner. It is essentially useless. I hate it. Next, we got the Scutter, slightly less useless, but still pretty bad. We're going to put it straight into C tier. Assault rifles just aren't good. Even after the buff, they still really need a lot. It's just, they're in a weird spot. They're in a really weird spot. Again, they're usable, but it's just not great. Now we got the Rensetsu AR burst rifle. This thing's really good. This thing's really good. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. This is a hard decision because I want to put it in B. Like, I really want to put it in B, but I'm thinking it's C tier. Is it really as good as a Scutter? It is really. It's. This is a hard choice. I think I'm gonna put it in B tier. I think I'm gonna put it in B tier because it's not terrible. There are worse guns. Yeah. We'll put it in B tier. It's not bad. Now on to the Ludlow SMG. This thing with its buff is really damn good. Insta B tier for me. This thing absolutely shreds from close range. It is nasty now, the impact damage it does, especially with two of them, especially with bullet orbits. Woo! You are looking at like half a second stuns. It's actually nuts. The Chang Chen machine gun is next. Ludlow's big brother. Decent stats. Bigger mag. It's got worse stats overall, but way bigger mag. 15 extra bullets. Honestly, in this game, it's enough to make the difference between being really good and just great. This thing, honestly, I think is now one of the best weapons in the game. I'm going to put it A tier. This thing absolutely shreds. The ability to keep that pressure on through stuns, through everything, is invaluable. I think it's actually insanely strong. This is my first A tier weapon, 100%. Now we're at the burst machine gun at Sujin. This thing's really good. Instant B tier. Not really too much to say about it. It's a good weapon. Try it out. You'll be surprised. Yes. The dreaded Gatling gun. Oh, this is a hot topic. I want to put it in B tier, and I know people are going to be like, what? But it's just so easy to play around in PvP, especially. You know, the second you see they have a Gatling gun, you just back up. They're a lot like shotguns, except way less lethal. It's way harder to stay in close range consistently than to get in close range once, aka shotguns. So honestly, I don't think they're that powerful. They do a lot of damage, but you have to be close. They are absolutely useless at anything but close range, and close range is dominated by shotguns. So I will put them in A tier. This is an A tier weapon for sure. I'll be okay with that. Now on to shotguns, the Haldeman. This is the honest shotgun. Not quite the Zimmerman's. But it's pretty good. It's pretty damn good. I would put this in B tier instantly. I think that's where it belongs. And now, on to everyone's favorite. You guys already know where this fucking thing belongs. S tier, without a doubt. 100 billion%. These things are totally broken. And a lot of people are like, oh, there's so many counters. Oh, you know, they're not OP. And I agree. There's counters to everything in the game. It's just Zimmerman counters more than it gets countered. So it deserves to be up there. 100%. Especially if you know what you're doing with them. A lot of people just use them like mid-range shooting you. You have to be close. You have to be assault boosting for the extra impact. You are going to stun 90% of players if you know what you're doing with the Zimmermans on like the first run. Unless you're fighting a quad or a tank, they're going to get stunned, and then you can do whatever the hell you want. So they are automatic S tier for me. Their impact is way too high. Honestly, I think that's the major reason I'm putting it up there, is just because the impact is insane. It completely shuts people down before they can do anything. So S tier easily for me. Now we're on to the Sweet 16 shotgun. These things, again, are the honest shotgun, especially when compared to the Zimmerman. I do like them a lot. I think they're pretty strong. However, they have a really, really long reload, and they just don't do enough to be insanely good. I can see two of them being super strong, though, so I almost want to put this in A tier, but you know what? Yeah, because the burst damage is really, really good. And you could definitely follow that up with something else if you get the stun. So I think I am going to put it in A tier. I think the Sweet 16s belong in A tier over the Haldemans, just because they're almost as strong as the Zimmermans in terms of a lot of the stats. So I think that's fair. All right, we're on to handguns. Handguns are really, really good in this game. The Coquillet, I believe, is the smaller but faster fire rate handgun of the two. This thing is nuts. This thing is one of the best guns in the game. I'm going to put it A tier. It doesn't belong in S tier, but damn, it's close. These things stun so fast. I really am tempted to put it in S tier, just because of how quickly you can dagger with this thing. But compared to the Zimmermans, which are just straight up overpowered, I think it just belongs in A tier because they are pretty balanced. They're really, really underrated. I love them personally. Definite A tier. Now for the Ducats. The Ducats, again, are the bigger brother. These things have longer range, slower fire rate, but they pack way more of a punch. And stun at around the same time. They have around the same impact per second. So they're definitely competitive. We're going to put them right in A tier, right next to their little brother here. Perfect spot for the handguns. Now we're on to the Sampu, the burst handgun. This thing is super underrated. It is really strong. Does it deserve A tier? Hell no. But B tier? That's where the Sampu belongs. Rusty, I think, would be proud. Now we're on to the Viento needle gun. These things are also slept on, but way more than the Sampus. These things are insane. They only have 5 shots, but their impact per second is insanely good. You can stun people in seconds with them. They are very, very, very powerful if you can land your shots. I'm going to put them straight into A tier. Oh, and the dreaded stun guns. There's only one place these things belong. S tier. Here's why. Stun guns are their own breed of bullshit. They not only have insane damage, but they have a status effect that builds up near instantly that staggers your AC. It stuns your AC, not staggers, stuns. You have a mini stun every time you the static builds up, the electricity builds up. And with two of these constantly pressuring your opponent, they can barely play the game. Combine this with the coral shield, any shield to get up close and personal to block a bit of damage, and you're looking at one of the best weapons in the entire game with little counters, very similar to the Zimmerman. These things are dumb. These things are dumb. They are oppressive. Yeah. Yikes. Now we're on to the bazookas. Guanji, Majestic, and Little Gem. They all are functionally the same with a bit of damage differences, but yeah, honestly, they're pretty bad. In terms of everything, I would probably put them all in D tier. I am not a fan of bazookas, especially in PvP. For PvE, they're a little bit better, but I still think they belong in D tier. They're just really bad. Now we're on to the detonating bazooka, Javelin Alpha. This thing is okay. It's a little bit better than the bazookas. It's got a little more velocity to the rockets, but they're still not great. Still super long reload. Still stuff that shoulder weapons do better. So I'm going to put it in C tier for sure. Now we're on to the grenade launchers. Duchen, Dizzy, and Iridium. All of them are pretty meh. Honestly, I think it's just as simple as that. Straight into C tier for all of them. Now we're on to the Napalm Bomb Launcher, KRI. This thing is really cool, but it sucks. It's really bad. If you land it, it lands the heat. The heat buildup is almost instant. And that's really good, but landing it is the problem. It goes on the ground, and ACs can fly. So, I'm going to put it in D tier. It doesn't belong anywhere else. It's pretty bad. It's hard to use properly. Honestly, flamethrower might just be a better option if you want to burn people. It's just, oof. Next is the jamming bomb launcher, Kyoru. You might be surprised, but this is actually really good. This turns off targeting for everyone. Hard lock, soft lock, you name it. Missiles, nothing works with this thing on the ground. Super underrated, super powerful tool. Does it belong in A tier? No, but B tier for sure. It is a very underutilized weapon. I think we'll probably be seeing more of this in the future. It's good. Now we're on to the stun bomb launcher, the Therapist. This thing is pretty terrible, honestly. It's not great. It doesn't have a lot going for it at all, besides the electric, and even then, oof. Just oof. I'm putting it in C tier. Not quite D tier, but I'm thinking about it, but we're going to throw it in C tier. Now we're on to the Bad Cook Flamethrower, my beloved. This thing is underrated as hell. It does so much damage to people if you're close. I think this deserves to be B tier easily. The DPS it outputs is insane. The extra bonus you get from, flaming people, not on the internet, be nice to them. This thing is very underrated because you can follow it up with something that does a lot of stagger on your shoulders, on your side weapon, and it'll be even more effective. And two of them, again, have insane DPS. So I think people are sleeping on the flamethrowers. They're actually pretty good. Although, again, not quite A or S tier because those other weapons, Zimmerman stun guns, are sort of dominating the close range right now. Now we're on to the laser rifles, the LR, the LRA, and the LRB. So they're progressively heavier with multiple shots getting to the end. They all function around the same, but obviously the big one is way stronger. So I think all of them deserve, I know this is going to be crowded, but I think all of them deserve to be in B tier. They're pretty good. They're not great, but they're damn good. They really, really do a lot. So I'm a big fan. And I'm an even bigger fan of our next one, Laser Shotgun Wooger. This thing packs a punch. The charge attack is insane. You can do like 4,000 damage in an instant. Combine that with two of them, and you can like basically instantly kill people when they're staggered. This thing, it's really good. Super high rate of fire. And it feels like it never, ever, ever goes on cooldown. You can shoot this thing like 17 times before it finally starts to cool off. It's nuts. It's definitely the better laser shotgun in my opinion. Maybe not as consistent as the others, but the pure raw damage and strength this thing can put out is nuts. I think it's super actually underrated. So we're gonna put it in A tier and put this the Wooger in A tier for sure. Now, the LS laser shotgun is not quite as strong as the Wooger just because I don't think it has the raw DPS comparatively because of the slower rate of fire. It is more consistent. You will get more out of ranged, but if you're closer, the Woogers will delete someone. It also has a way better charge attack, the Woogers. So I don't think this thing deserves to be an A tier. I think it's got to go in B tier, but it is still a very, very viable and super strong option. Now we're on to the LH laser handgun. This thing, you're going to be surprised. This, I think, is one of the best weapons in the game. I'm putting it straight into A tier, and here's why. These things, their DPS, their range, the ability for them to remove someone from the planet very quickly is actually insane. If you let anybody with a laser handgun close to you for even a second, you will feel the pain. They'll do thousands and thousands of damage in seconds. Their DPS, especially with the 150 generator, that increases your energy weapon damage, it makes these things lethal. And because of that, I'm putting it in A tier. And for the fact that they just seem to never, ever, ever being able to stop shooting. You can shoot these things 1,000 times. Similar to the Woogers, their capacity, their energy capacity is just off the charts. It's nuts. So constant pressure, constant damage. They are very scary. They are very underrated. Now we're on to the PR plasma rifle. This thing's really underrated, but it's not OP. It's not even great, but it is good. It is very good. We're going to put that in straight into B tier. And the Nebula plasma rifle, honestly, is just as good. We're going to throw that in B tier as well. These things, if you hit someone with them, are going to melt them so quickly. It is hard to land because the velocity is quite slow. But if you're like a reverse joint, a quad, someone always in the air, raining down these shots can be extremely lethal. Now we're getting a little spicy. Onto the coral weapons. This first weapon, the Redshift coral rifle, is very, very similar to the Nebula. However, its focus is direct hit damage. So if you're going to get a stun off and you fire a couple rounds of these, it will destroy your opponents. They are very good, but again, the velocity is really slow. I think they belong in B tier, and B tier is getting a little crowded. Now we're on to the other coral rifle, the WLT-011. This thing has way faster velocity, but they both do insane direct hit damage. They're really, really strong, but again, they're not good enough to be put into A tier. They're just B tier weapons. Again, they are really good on punishes, but I feel like that's all they have. There's a lot of better weapons for neutral, for impact, in general. So all of these, I think, sort of belong in the B tier. Oh boy, we're on to my baby from past Armored Cores and this one, the Kurosawa rifle. This thing is nuts. It's a multi-energy rifle. The fully charged shot in particular is lethal at close ranges. It's almost impossible to dodge It does 7 billion damage. It has a very long cooldown, but if you land the shot, it will absolutely decimate your opponent and almost instant stagger them. For this reason, I'm actually going to put it in S tier, and I'm not joking. With even one of these, you can make a viable build with just a couple other steps. They're that strong. They're really, 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 really not to be trifled with. The second you see that Kurosawa, you need to make sure that you dodge when it comes out. And if you don't, you're basically dead. So I think it's very fair to put those bad boys in S tier. Now we're on to the pulse guns, the Q1 and the A2. Both of these guns are extremely situational because their purpose is to destroy pulse shields. Pulse shields you're going to see on Belteus, you're going to see on anyone who pops pulse armor. But because of that, they're really not good anywhere else. They do quite a bit of damage on their own, but you have to be super up close, and their accuracy isn't great. Because of this, we're going to put them in C tier. Next, we got the missile launcher and the split missile launcher. Both of these, have similar functions. They shoot out missiles. The missiles do stuff. They're okay. Their damage isn't great, but they're not terrible. I'll put them in C tier. I think that's fair because there's way better main hand weapons you can throw on. And speaking of way better main hand weapons, we're at the Apparative, one of the greatest main hand weapons in the game. The Siege Missile Launcher shoots out delayed missiles that sort of sit for a while, but allows you to reposition, and then the missiles start coming at your opponent to track them down, and it does a lot. I mean, a lot of damage, and they have a lot of range, and they shoot out a lot of missiles. Honestly, this thing is insanely powerful. I'm going to go ahead and put it in S tier. This is one of the greatest weapons in the game, just for putting pressure on your opponent. I think it's definitely overtuned. It's very strong. Now we're on to the fun stuff, the melee weapons. First up, we got the Pile Bunker Ashmead. This is one of the best melee weapons in the game, if not for the fact that it does the most burst damage as quickly as possible out of all of them. It's nasty. It really is. If you're too slow on getting staggered and someone has a Pile Bunker, they're charging it on you, usually even the quickest pulse armor is not going to make it. You are going to tear through them. You are eating that Pile Bunker whether you like it or not. This is one of the best melee weapons in the entire game. I'm going to place it in A tier. Now we're on to the Explosive Thrower, Taiyang Shu. This thing is just weird. It's really weird. It's not great, but it's not bad. Does it deserve anything higher than B? Hell no. You know what? It even deserves C. Because it's just weird. The range isn't great. The stagger you get with it is good, but there are way better options. It definitely belongs in C tier. And we're on to one of my personal favorites, the Double Trouble Chainsaw. Oh my god, is this thing underrated. Chainsaw has the highest direct hit damage punish in the entire game, allowing you to stun someone once and chainsaw them in half, really. With the charge attack, it's absolutely devastating. Also, if you charge it up, it gives you damage reduction while charging. So you get passive damage reduction while just charging it up, walking around. This thing is super underrated. 100% A tier weapon. Now we're on to the EB Stun Baton. This thing sucks. This thing is just not good. It's just not good. It's not good at anything. It's memey. It's fun. Police brutality. But it really, really sucks. Like, really sucks. I personally hate it. It's D tier for me. Sorry. Now we're on to the Laser Dagger. This thing is awesome. It's super lightweight, so it can fit on most builds. And it does a lot of damage on its 3-hit combo. It's just overall really, really solid. It's got to go B tier. Now we're on to the Laser Blade. This thing is so tragic because I want to love it. It's really cool. It's got a nice big blue sweeps and the double sweep charge, but it's just not good. The tracking is terrible. It feels like I'm using the Moonlight Greatsword in the past few Souls games, where you just do the big charge and it just whiffs for no reason at all. It's a feels bad moment, and I don't think it's great at all. Oh man, I'm tempted to put it in D tier, but it's not that bad. You can still land hits. It's still got a lot of range. It just leaves you open. It leaves you in this big, long animation. It's not powerful enough to justify it. It's so underwhelming. I think that's the big thing, is it's very underwhelming. Laser Blade gets a solid C tier for me. Now on to the Laser Slicer, aka the Twin Blade. This thing is incredible. The damage you can put out with this thing is nuts. The second you get that stun, you go for the stagger punish combo, and you are swinging for like an hour. Suddenly, the opponent is in a Tekken juggle combo. They are wanting to pulse armor out of there, but you just throw them right back in. It's nasty. This thing is super underrated, super powerful, combined with laser drones, where you shoot them out and then combo with this. The laser drones will shoot your opponent while you're comboing them for 10 hours. They actually have time to come out and start shooting. Bullet orbits at all, any orbits. This thing, it just has so many uses. Team fights, keeping someone in place for that long. I think this is the longest combo extender in the game out of a stagger. And for that reason alone, it has to be A tier. This is one of the strongest punishes in the game. Yes, it takes a while, but that's sort of the point. Now we're at the Laser Lance. I love this thing. I made several builds around the Laser Lance, namely the Dragoon, but it's just fun. It's just fun to charge. It's fun to get people. It does a lot of damage. It's got decent tracking. Sometimes the charge attack will miss like point blank, and it's really weird. But I don't think the Lance is actually good enough to go to A tier. Because the damage it does is outshined by a lot of other stuff. The tracking isn't perfect, but it can combo into other melee combos. But that alone doesn't push it to A tier. It is a B tier weapon. It is still very good, but just not excellent. Oh boy. Plasma Thrower. This thing is insane. On a quad build or a tank, this shuts down anyone getting into close range. It instantly stuns. The impact damage, the damage, everything about this is nuts. This is the most underrated melee weapon in the entire game. It's probably because it's nigh unusable on bipeds and reverse joints because you're stuck in the long whip animation. But my god, this Plasma Thrower, the whip, is nuts. If anybody gets close to you, as a quad or a tank, you can kite them. You can instantly stagger them. Do whatever you want. This is 100% one of the best weapons in the game. And honestly, I'm going to put it in S tier. Because it's just that damn good. I think it is the most underrated tool in the entire game. And I hope I don't see more of it, because I sort of hate it. And finally, everybody's favorite melee weapon, the Pulse Blade, the starter weapon. This thing's super good. It's not good for punishes, but it's good for general neutral. General melee footsies in neutral, we'll call it. Just throwing it out, just hitting someone with it. This is probably the best melee weapon in the game for that. It does a lot of impact. It does a decent amount of damage. It's not great for punishes, but it does do a lot of damage to pulse shields. And it's overall good. It's good. It's a B tier weapon, for sure. Now we got the Moonlight and the Redshift, two of my favorites in the game. These are sort of ranged melee weapons, but they still benefit from stuff like the Basho arms, melee specialization stat. So they're definitely still melee weapons. However, they're really good on builds that can't go in for the punish because they're too far away, such as rifles, laser rifles, any sort of long range. These are going to be a great tool to switch and get some bigger damage than just continuously shooting. And their projectiles are pretty decent, especially the charged of both of them are very hard to dodge in general, especially if you don't know they're coming. They are telegraphed, but fair. So I think we're going to put both of them in B tier. Again, The Moonlight's still really good because it doesn't have the good R1s, but it has a good charge attack. And Redshift is the opposite. It has really good R1s, but not as good charge attack. They're both extremely good options. Oh, God. Here we are. The Coral Oscillator. This thing is really, really, really strong. Its normal slash is cool. It's strong, but that's not what it's used for. The charge attack is a massive sweeping laser beam that does like 7 billion impact damage. It's super good for comboing into anything slow, especially the Coral missiles. That's my bread and butter combo right there. It's nasty. The tracking on it is really good. There's even tech where you can hard lock away and like spawn the laser on top of someone. So I think these are slept on, and they can be hard to use because you can't turn your camera while you use the charge attack. But honestly, you just let Jesus take the wheel, and half the time you're going to hit your opponents because the tracking is super strong. These are definite A tier. Now we're on to shoulder weapons, and on to my babies, the Morleys. Oh my God, do I love these things. Are they good? They're good. Are they great? Hell no, they're not. They have super, super slow time to fire. The second you pull the trigger, you're going to be waiting a good 2 seconds before those bad boys come out. The range is pathetic. The damage leaves a lot to be desired, but the impact is insane. If you can land this thing, the whole shotgun explodey blast, most ACs will get stunned in a single double blast from the Morleys. So they can be incredibly potent, as I'm sure a lot of you have seen on my Rust Bucket build. So I'm going to put them at B tier because they have a use. It's very niche, close range, but they're not super powerful, but they're not bad. Now we're on to the Earshot Grenade Cannon. Oh my God. This weapon is insane. Its radius hits you no matter what you do. If you're even an inch close to the ground, even if you dodge out of the way, this thing will still hit you every single time. Thankfully, it doesn't do a shit ton of damage, but it does a lot and has a lot of impact. This thing is really, really, really nasty if you are on the ground. So stay off the ground. Definite B tier. But the key is that it's easily countered by just don't stay on the ground. Stay away from the ground. And thankfully, with Coral Gens, that's very easy to do for most ACs. The Songbirds, slightly more fair grenade cannon. These things really, really do pack a punch. But they're easily dodgeable, and there's tons of better punish options. Really good for PvE, though. But I think just for the fact that, you know, there's better options, we're going to have to put it in C tier. Oh, God. We finally arrived, didn't we? I don't even think you guys need an explanation for this one. But in case you do, those are the stun needle launchers. Arguably the most broken weapon in the entire game. For some godforsaken reason, they decided to make the Storm Ruler of this game do 7 billion damage outside his boss room. If you land a direct hit with these, that player is bye-bye. It may as well delete your save file. It hits so hard. Not only does it hit hard, but it has electricity damage, which is already super strong. So if you're not stunned, it stuns you and does a portional percentage of your HP. It's just dumb. These things are totally broken. Half the time, even if you dodge them, they have the AoE blast, so you do take a bit of splash. Their projectile velocity is so fast that even on decent connections, if you dodge it, you're still going to get hit with the full charge. These things are absolutely fucking broken. They're bullshit. I hate them more than anything. If there was a triple S tier here, I would put it, but we're just going to put it in S for now. Holy fuck. I hate them. They need a nerf more than anything in the game, in my opinion. Yeah, they're nasty. On to the laser cannons. All of the laser cannons have different purposes, different powers, but they all function relatively the same. The first one is just a normal one. The second one is a triple And the third one is sort of a shotgun. All of them are super strong. These are some of the best punish options in the entire game. These things are all slept on so much, and thank God they are, because they are super annoying to deal with. Their projectile velocity is near instant because they're a laser, so you can punish from basically any range. The shotgun ones are devastating at close range, and again, their charged attacks are basically one-shots. If you land a direct hit, it will destroy someone's health, if not outright kill them, especially if you have two of these on your shoulders. These are some of the best punish tools in the game. I'm putting them all, no doubt, in my mind, into A tier. Now we're on to the plasma cannon. The plasma cannon's really cool, but it suffers from, again, slow projectile velocity and, long reloads. The whole shebang. They're just not amazing, but they're not bad. Definitely underrated. Throw them right into B tier. Now on to the pulse cannon. Again, with all the pulse guns and the pulse cannon included, they're very niche, very situational. This one even more so. However, it's not so bad as to put it in D tier, but we're going to throw it right where it belongs, in C tier. The pulse shield launcher, however, is actually surprisingly good. This thing puts up a shield that you can sort of hide behind and peek around cover. It's basically a free cover wherever you are. It blocks bullets, it blocks all sorts of stuff, and it lasts for quite a long time. These things are slept on. This is super underrated, but not A tier. B tier, 100%. I would like to see more people take use of this because it is very good, especially for this bursty, sort of shotgunny meta we're in right now. Now we're on to the light wave cannon aura. This thing sucks. This thing is so bad. It is basically unusable. The tracking is terrible. When it does track, it does 0 damage, next to none. It's really cool though. It's super cool, and it pairs well with the Moonlight Sword because it's like cool little light beams, but it fucking sucks. It's trash. Who am I kidding? It's straight D tier. Now we have the missile launchers. Very straightforward. They shoot missiles forward. Super good for when you're stunning people, direct hit damage, but really not a great option. I think these missiles are definitely going to go into C tier. And honestly, split dual and vertical missile launchers are sort of in the same boat. They're not great, but they're not bad. I don't think any of them deserve B tier. So we're going to throw them all into C tier. They put a little bit of pressure on your opponent, and they're not bad if you don't have anything else to slot in, but there are way better options. The active homing missile launchers are actually pretty good. These things are, again, slept on, underused, and underrated. Their tracking seems to last for an eternity, and when they do hit you, they hit pretty damn hard. They're a really good option for a build that puts on a lot of pressure with other weapons. I think these definitely deserve B tier. The container missile launcher might look terrifying, but it really isn't. It shoots out a bunch of little missiles after one big missile, and they sort of spread out and track opponents, but I don't know. They don't seem great. They really, really don't seem great. I'm going to put this in C tier, especially for the weight. It's just not worth it. A lot of these missile launchers sort of suffer the same fate. The delivery boy is super cool. Again, it shoots up missiles in the air and then it rains down. But it's just too damn slow. The whole thing is just too damn slow. Too telegraphed. People are going to walk out of that. It takes an hour. I am not a fan, especially in PvP. I think we'll throw it into C tier. Now we're on to the Soup Scatter Missile Launcher. These things, a lot of people use them, but they're really, really not good. They're super easy to dodge. I think all of these missiles really just, they're not great. They put a little bit of pressure on your opponents, but not enough compared to other stuff to justify being on your shoulders, being a top tier slot on your shoulders. So I think I'm going to throw the Soup, unfortunately, right where it belongs in C tier. The detonating missile launcher, the Javelin Beta. This thing is fucking trash. It looks really cool because like zooms around and has a delayed explosion, but by the time it gets to your opponent, they're already gone. I've seen people really try to make this work by hiding it with like a flamethrower and stuff, and you're better off using just about anything else. This thing basically serves no purpose at all. I don't think I've ever been hit by it, and if I did, I should probably uninstall D tier straight up. And we're on to the Trunos, the needle missile launcher. These things are insane. They are starting to see some use in the meta. I've seen a lot of people starting to use them, myself included. Their projectile velocity is near instant. The direct hit damage is nothing to scoff at either. They're super lightweight, super easy to throw on 2 of these on your back and have free pressure. They do give notif of it coming, but on a shitty connection, sometimes they come out without warning, and that's sort of when they become an issue. These things are insane. Again, they're missiles, so they track as well on top of their super speed. They're some of the best options in the game. I think this 100% deserves S tier right next to our stun needle. Even though the stun needle is a way, way better version, these are like the almost balanced version of them, but they're so unbalanced that they're still S tier. They're nuts. All right, we have the plasma missile launcher and then the vertical version of the plasma missile launcher. The plasma missile launcher itself really isn't too great. I'm going to go ahead and put it into C tier just because it's, goes straight. It's very telegraphed. People can see it coming. People can dodge very easily. It's good for punishes, but again, better options. However, the vertical missile launcher of the plasma variant is slapped on. These things are really, really good. They seemingly have super high tracking. They stay in the air for far too long. Every time I see one of those go out, I start to panic because I know they're going to hit me. Super strong, super good. Any super powerful stuff? Not really. I think they belong in B tier. They belong in B tier. They're very good options. Now we're on to the coral missile launcher. This thing is insane. The tracking is ungodly. The damage, it's a tactical nuke. It's going to delete you from the planet if it hits you. And it never stops chasing you. When I say the tracking is good, it is so hard to dodge if you're not a lightweight. If you don't have cover, if you're on a bad map, you're basically dead when these come out. Especially if they have something else like the oscillator to follow up and try to hit you with pressure on teams, in 3v3s, on anything. These are just nasty. Definitely one of the best shoulder units in the entire game. Every time you see these things, you should be scared for your life because they are going to come after you and they are going to hurt you. 100% S tier for the coral missiles. All right, we got the Bullet Orbit Huxley next. These things are insane. They are slept on. They are build enablers. They make weapons that normally aren't great really great because they just give you just a little more impact to get that stun out and allow you to sort of really, really get those punishes, those stagger punishes out way easier. These things are A tier. Without a doubt, because they are super strong. Their tracking is good. They have high impact. And if you can manage them smartly, their cooldown isn't that bad. If you let them run out, then you have to wait a super long cooldown. But with skill and, a bit of attention, you can put them back and pull them out very, very quickly, very efficiently, especially in burst, in builds that go in and out of combat. This is where the Bullet Orbit shines. Super underrated. Try them out. They're nuts. Now, onto the laser orbits. Unfortunately, not quite as powerful as the Bullet Orbit. They also don't benefit from the energy stat on your generator. They are flat damage, which is a little disappointing. But they're not bad. They're really not bad. I think these are definitely a B tier option, without a doubt. Not as good as the Huxleys for what they do, but they do quite a bit of damage. Not bad. The laser turret. Oh, this thing is really cool, but people can just walk away. You know, like, I'm sad about it. I'm really sad about it. I don't think it's very good at all. We're gonna put it in C tier because it's just not great. Now on to the laser drones. These things are super nutty. Not quite S tier, but 100% A tier. Charging them up makes them do about 7 billion damage to your enemies. They track like no other. If your opponent doesn't dodge, or they're stunned, or they're in any sort of combo, this is probably going to kill them outright. Combined with 2 of them, and you got something really, really nasty. 100% A tier. Thankfully, these are slept on. Thankfully, not a lot of people charge them up fully, so they don't do their maximum damage. But my god, they're super strong. One of the best options in the game, hands down. Now we're on to the shields. The Pulse Shield and the Pulse Buckler serve very similar purposes. Each of them sort of blocks damage and impact damage while they're up, and extra damage if you have an initial guard, which is the second you guard, you get sort of a boost, and the time frame is different per shield. It's a whole thing. These are all super, super strong. I don't know why I have 2 Pulse Bucklers, but we're going to deal with it. All of the Pulse Shields, for now, are going straight to B tier. Now we're on to the Pulse Scutum. This thing is really, really good. Super underrated, but it works very differently. You have to charge it for a full 4 seconds to get the full effect of the shield, but when it's up, it is stronger than all of them. It's really, really powerful. However, this means that you can't dodge, you can't do any quick boost action because your shield's going to go down and it's going to lose that full 4 second charge. You're going to have to recharge it again. So you have to think, okay, am I going to block this attack, or is this worth to dodge? Incoming Karasawa or the needle launcher or something nasty. However, again, it's super strong when it's up, and builds like reverse joints that can rely on jumping, or quads that can just hover in the air are really, really good with this thing. Not good enough to put it in A tier, but solid B because of the downsides. Oh boy. The Coral Shield, the final weapon. This is very, very fitting because this thing is super controversial. It is super powerful. It blocks from all sides. It's like a Super Smash Brothers block. You can't get hit by missiles. You can't get hit by anything if you put this up. This is one of the best tools in the entire game. Even if you're shit at timing, even if you just hold it up, the damage mitigation it gives you just brainlessly is it's insane. It's immeasurable. It's seriously god tier. I can't think of any one item that destroys so many builds by just being able to block an obvious burst of a Zimmerman, of a stun gun, of any missile barrage, of anything in the game. Especially after a stagger and you're still red for a second. If you pop this up, you're not going to take any more damage, even though, you might be able to get punished from something else before. And this goes for all shields, but this is especially true of the Coral Shield. This thing is seriously, insanely strong. S tier, without a single doubt. Oh, and that's everything. I think we're finally done. That took a while. If you guys are still up, hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments. And again, this tier list is just my opinions. Just my opinions, man. So don't get mad at me. Don't take this as truth, because it's not. It is just one man's opinion that has played way too much Armored Core for the past 3 weeks only. So these opinions might change. Patches will definitely change this, and I will definitely make updated videos as they do. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Again, everyone, I love you all. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more Armored Core 6, and I'll see you on Rubicon.